Hello, Revolve Bible Church. Welcome to 5 Minute Connect. You know, with this season of life that we're in with the COVID-19, it has really also been a time of massive hoarding. And I'm sure you're well aware of that as you've taken trips to the grocery store and you've seen all of the empty shelves in the paper product aisles and many other aisles. And I'm sure you've been online to read about the crazy stories of people stockpiling essential goods, hundreds of thousands of products as almost kind of like a doomsday preparation. Maybe as you're tuning in and watching, you yourself have participated in the massive hoarding, stockpiling and collecting all that you could possibly have and keep in your homes. But this is really a time for the Christian to embrace biblical humility and the command that God issues to each and every one of us to be humble. Specifically in 1 Peter chapter 5, verses 5 through 6, Peter says in verse 5 that we're to clothe ourselves with humility. This is something that Peter, as he's writing, is commanding on behalf of the Lord to have a mindset of. The word humility here literally means to think of yourself as beneath other people. It's a mindset. It's a way in which you're seeing yourself. It's a way in which you're seeing other people. You're someone else's servant. That other person, the people in your life, they are your master. They are more important than you. They are greater than you. But as Peter is using this word here, as the word humility and the concept of humility is used in the Bible, this is not just an impression we give, but initiation we take to meet the needs of those who are more important than us. As Peter is writing here, he's also giving us a scope of humility. In verse 5, he's not only saying and giving us a horizontal scope of humility. We're to be humble toward one another. We're to meet the spiritual, physical, emotional needs of one another before ourselves. But there's also a vertical humility here in verse 6. We're to humble ourselves under the mighty hand of God. We're to meet and further the will of God in our lives. But the incredible thing is, as God commands us to be humble, God does not call us to be humble without first presenting himself as the premier example of humility. And that's what we find in Philippians chapter 2 with Jesus and his incredible act of humility as God, the Son of God, becomes man. Totally God, totally man, humbling himself as the suffering servant to die on behalf of sinful humanity. It's an incredible act of humility that we are to stand in awe of and be motivated to follow in humble servanthood. But we also see further motivation by the fact that not only God humbled himself, as Paul outlined it in Philippians 2, but specifically in Philippians 2, verses 9 through 11, when Paul goes on to say that the Father, due to Jesus' humble obedience, highly exalted his Son, raising him up from the dead, ascending him into heaven, and enthroning him, giving him the highest name, the highest ruling position as Lord, that every knee will bow to and that every tongue will confess as Lord. The Father exalted him and rewarded his Son. And Peter makes the same connection here in verse 6. Humble yourselves under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you at the proper time. Christian, we not only have exaltation to look forward to due to humility, but we also have grace to look forward to. As earlier in verse 5, God dispenses his grace to the humble, as opposed to the proud, who he opposes staunchly, stands against, and resists. What a motivation to be humble in this season of life, in this hard season of life, to look out for the needs of others, knowing that God pays attention and looks out for, cares for, in Peter's language, those who are humble. dispensing his grace, and at his proper time, in the right time, exalts them, brings them up and out of their trials. Christian, may God richly give his grace to you in greater measure and exalt you in his proper time as you look to be humble. Not just giving people the impression that you're humble, but taking initiative to prove it. God bless you.